Today's topic is around OpenAI and the nested web that it's created with the ecosystem of AI providers, AI players over the last few months. So to understand this video in terms of how the dollars flow between these entities, it's very important for understanding how OpenAI is structuring itself and the deployment models that it's choosing. It has broadly three deployment models. The first one is cell phone, where it is owning the data centers end to end. It's providing the chip, it's buying the chips from AMD and NVIDIA and operating them just like an AWS or a Google Cloud would do as a traditional hyperscaler. The second model is through Oracle Cloud, which is OCI. OCI is taking on the responsibility of building data centers and is using chips from the same providers. OpenAI has to some extent lesser control there because it's the build out of data centers is done by OpenAI, is done by Oracle, and potentially they have fungibility in mind, wherein if some other provider comes in tomorrow where there's additional capacity that OCI has to sell, they want to be in a position to sell that capacity to them. So there's lesser control in that sense. And the highest control that OpenAI has is through the Stargate JV, wherein it's a consortium of three partners of OpenAI, OCI, and SoftBank coming together, and again using the same chip providers, which is AMD and NVIDIA. So the commonality is that the chips that are being used are for the most part NVIDIA today, with some smaller components, a smaller section being used by AMD chips, and that is a game that AMD is looking to further over the coming years. So that's a primer, and let's now dive into how the dollars are flowing between these entities.
Obviously, OpenAI, which is the center of it all, which is the fastest growing startup in the world. Then you have the AMDs and the NVIDIAs of the world, which are the equipment providers. Obviously, NVIDIA is the is the largest company in the world. It is the big daddy when it comes to GPUs, and it's had a huge run in itself over the last 4 years, given the AI revolution. And now you also have Stargate, which is a partnership, which is a consortium of sorts, which has been formed between Oracle, OCI, which is Oracle Cloud, and then you have SoftBank by Masayoshi Son, which is financing it. So let's understand the motivation and the flow of dollars from each of these entities. Obviously, NVIDIA is an equipment provider for OpenAI, but NVIDIA is also committed to spending up to $100 billion in OpenAI. So the way it works is that NVIDIA is spending some money. I'm representing this as minus dollars because it's cash out for NVIDIA, but it gets more dollars in exchange because OpenAI is going to be buying NVIDIA GPUs in return for those $100 billion. So I'm guessing there's going to be a significantly larger than $100 billion that comes back to them as OpenAI meets those deadlines. Now, AMD and OpenAI, AMD has offered equity. So this has been an equity partnership. So the way AMD has structured this relationship is that it has issued about 116 million warrants to OpenAI at a cent a share. So essentially, they can buy all of the shares, 160 million shares of AMD at a cent, which is a total outlay of $1.6 million for OpenAI. But they will be able to buy this only if the stock price triples. The stock price for AMD is close to about $200 now. So if it triples and gets to about $600 is when they will make the money. So they buy something for $1.6 million. The stock tripled. So 160 million multiplied by 600 is close to about $96 billion. Billion with a B. So OpenAI stands to gain $96 billion. So the way the deal structured sounds like, hey you guys, we'll give you a big kicker in terms of upside if you really use our systems, OpenAI. And AMD systems are good and performant, but you get a huge kicker from an equity standpoint, and we gain to win because if you use our systems significantly over the next few years, our revenues are going to increase, our profits are going to increase, and we're also going to have more deployments, which makes us stay in the game with NVIDIA, because we are at this point in time a fringe player, but you're giving us more credibility. So it's one way of AMD saying that, hey, I've got a carrot dangling at you. It's another way of OpenAI saying that your products are credible and we're willing to bet on you for potentially even inference actions, because we think that there's a play for AMD chips given the demand that they have. In terms of OCI is assuming a lot of the risk. OCI also is spending dollars for building data centers directly for OpenAI, in addition to the Stargate affiliation. The Stargate affiliation is kind of like a three-way partnership with SoftBank and OpenAI, like I mentioned to you. But here, the dollars are coming from SoftBank, and SoftBank is acting like a traditional financier or a venture capitalist, where they're putting in money, but they'll get in returns much far out in the future. But OCI is already at a debt to equity ratio of 420%. Think about it. A company that is so saddled with debt is taking on more debt to partner with OpenAI. And I believe the partnership is somewhere in the $30 billion range. So they're going to overextend themselves with the assumption that they become a credible player in the space and they become a ballast to Google Cloud, to AWS, and to Azure. So there's going to be some stretching involved here. So if I were to look at which entity is taking the most risk, NVIDIA, it's taking low risk. I think I would say this is fairly low. AMD, again, the risk is not high. They have a short, so the risk here is fairly low too from an AMD standpoint. But if you look at it from an entity standpoint, OpenAI stands to benefit the most, because they are a $12 billion small company which has been growing at a rapid clip. But they have people lining up to finance them, to provide them infrastructure, to provide them sweetheart deals, which is an incredible position to be in for a company. So it's in a good place to be. But again, if you flip the script and you think about it from the standpoint of the shareholder, I'm pretty bullish on NVIDIA, because NVIDIA still has a lot of demand. It's the best product in town, and inference costs are only going to increase from here on in. So NVIDIA still has a role to play, and it's going to be bringing in next generation products which are going to be more performant. But in the case of AMD's stock is already selling at a price to earnings ratio of 122 today. If it were to go to $600 a share, the presumption is that, hey, there's going to be some dilution of existing shareholders with these warrants that have been issued, but the revenue potential is going to be so enormous that it's going to change the game and it's going to flip the script. In any event, 122 times price to earning ratio should be is signaling alarm bells for me all over the place. So this is, again, none of this is financial advice. Do your own research, speak to your financial advisors. But if from my standpoint, I look at AMD as a very high risk investment. Same is the case with Oracle. NVIDIA is in a different space. And again, SoftBank has got a deeper pockets, and it's not like everyday investors. So they have a longer horizon to kind of contend with. All right, that's it in terms of the deal spree that OpenAI is on. Catch you in the next one. Take care.